Hank Williams Jr., the son of one of the most celebrated figures in country music history, has lived a life that few could imagine. From the moment he was born into a world where music wasn't simply a form of entertainment. It was destiny, a burden, and a gift all at once. His father, Hank Williams Sr., had already carved his name into the annals of American music with heart-wrenching ballads and timeless hits. But tragedy struck early when his father passed away at the age of 29, leaving the weight of the Williams name on the young boy's shoulders. From a very early age, Hank Jr. was thrust into the spotlight, performing on stage and singing the songs of a man he barely knew. While audiences cheered at the haunting echoes of his father's melodies behind the scenes, he wrestled with questions of identity, purpose, and a desire to be recognized for his own talent. His childhood was not the carefree experience of most children. Instead, it was a life of rehearsals, public appearances, and constant comparisons. Critics often labeled him an imitator, no matter how strong his performances were, and every note he sang seemed to echo a life that wasn't entirely his. Yet, even from these early years, it was clear that Hank Jr. possessed a fiery spirit, a determination to carve a path that was uniquely his own, even if the world around him had other expectations. And as Hank Williams Jr. grew older, the struggle to step out of his father's shadow intensified. The music industry, while offering him recognition because of his family name, also trapped him in a cycle of imitation that prevented him from fully expressing his own artistic voice. He began experimenting with other musical influences, drawing inspiration from Southern rock, blues, and the outlaw country movement. Musicians like Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash became his models, not as replacements for his father, but as examples of living and creating music on one's own terms. This period of artistic growth coincided with rebellion, both personal and professional, as Hank Jr. fought to resist the expectations forced upon him. However, his journey was not without peril. In 1975, a single misstep during a climb on Ajax Peak in Montana left him in a near-fatal accident, falling more than 500 feet and suffering severe head and facial injuries. The ordeal was catastrophic, leaving him in a hospital bed, fighting for his life for weeks. Surgeons worked tirelessly to reconstruct his face, but the injuries left permanent scars. This accident, harrowing as it was, marked a turning point in his life. It forced Hank Jr. to rebuild himself not just physically, but emotionally and musically. The man who emerged from that tragedy was no longer merely the son of a legend. He became a survivor, a fighter, and eventually a legend in his own right. The accident's trauma also instilled a deeper honesty and intensity in his music, as he embraced the raw edges of Southern rock and outlaw country to craft a style that was entirely his OWN by the late 1970s. Hank Williams Jr. had fully embraced his identity as an artist. His breakthrough song, Family Tradition, released in 1979, served as both a personal declaration and a rallying cry to audiences. Through its lyrics, he spoke candidly about his lifestyle, explaining that his choices, whether drinking or defying social norms, were part of family tradition. The song's raw honesty resonated with fans who were tired of polished Nashville formulas and who craved music that spoke directly to lived experience. Throughout the 1980s, he continued this momentum with a string of albums, including Whiskey Bent and Hellbound and Habits Old and New, cementing his status as one of the most authentic voices in country music. During this period, Hank Jr. also earned the title of one of country music's most charismatic live performers. On stage, he exuded energy, confidence, and a defiant attitude that captivated audiences. Collaborations with legends such as Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, and Willie Nelson placed him firmly in the outlaw elite, a group of artists who rejected Nashville's carefully polished image in favor of authenticity and grit. These years represented the transformation of a man who had once struggled to emerge from his father's shadow into a full-fledged musical powerhouse. Through every song, performance, and interview, Hank Williams Jr. made it clear that he would live by his own rules and that survival, independence, and defiance were the guiding principles of his life and music. Despite his professional triumphs, Hank Jr.'s life was never free from controversy. He frequently made headlines for outspoken political and social commentary, refusing to conform to the sanitized expectations of public figures. While other artists meticulously curated their public images, Hank Jr. often welcomed the storm, knowing that controversy would follow him wherever he went. One of his most infamous incidents occurred in 2011 when he made politically charged remarks comparing then President Barack Obama to Adolf Hitler, which led to the termination of ESPN's long-standing use of the song All My Rowdy Friends Are Here on Monday Night as the theme for Monday Night Football. The fallout illustrated both the power and peril of his outspoken nature. While some applauded his refusal to be silenced, others saw his unnecessary self-destruction of a career milestone. Yet Hank Jr. never wavered from his principles, embraced his identity as a man who would speak his truth regardless of consequence. Beyond politics, his lyrics often sparked debate, celebrating rural defiance, hunting, and drinking, yet confronting listeners with the raw realities of life in America's heartland. His boldness alienated some but reinforced the loyalty of his fans, who viewed him as a voice unafraid to challenge norms and authority. While Hank Williams Jr.'s public persona was defined by rebellion, music, and survival, his private life has been marked by tragedy and heartbreak that would challenge even the strongest of men. For decades, fans saw him as a fearless outlaw who defied Nashville, survived a near-fatal fall, and produced some of the most memorable country anthems of his generation. Yet behind the dark glasses, beard, and cowboy hat, Hank Jr. faced personal losses that no fame, fortune, or musical acclaim could shield him from. Perhaps the most devastating blow came in 2020, when his daughter, Catherine Katie Williams Dunning, died in a tragic car accident at only 27 years old. Katie's SUV crossed a median on a Tennessee road and rolled over, ending the life of a young mother and wife. The tragedy reverberated throughout the Williams family and the wider country music community, leaving friends, fans, and fellow musicians stunned. For Hank Jr., the loss was profoundly personal. Those who had seen him survive death on a mountainside could only imagine the depth of grief he felt as a father confronting the loss of a child. Friends and family noted that even a man known for his defiance, strength, and unwavering will could not escape the devastating impact of such heartbreak. The pain was compounded by the public nature of his family, as the Williams name has always been a subject of fascination and scrutiny. Fans and media outlets quickly focused on the family, seeking insight into how Hank Jr. and his surviving children were coping with the loss. His son, Sam Williams, who followed his father into music, openly shared his struggles with grief, occasionally hinting at feelings of entrapment and difficulty navigating life in the shadow of both his father and the tragedy that had befallen their family. This added layer of complexity painted a portrait of a family grappling not only with the loss of a beloved daughter, but also with the weight of legacy, public attention, and the constant expectation to remain resilient in the face of adversity. Despite the private pain, Hank Jr. has shown remarkable resilience over the years. His life has been a cycle of challenges, survival, and perseverance. From the early pressure to perform as a child to his rebellion against imitation, to a career-threatening accident, and the recent heartache of losing his daughter, he has consistently demonstrated the ability to endure life's most difficult trials. Unlike many public figures, Hank Jr. did not retreat entirely from the spotlight during these periods of grief. Instead, he often allowed his pain and experience to inform his music, creating songs and performances that carried an emotional depth unmatched by many of his contemporaries. His fans began to notice the transformation. The raw energy of his early performances evolved into something more profound, where sorrow, reflection, and resilience blended with his unmistakable outlaw sound. Each performance became more than entertainment. It was a statement of survival, a tribute to personal endurance, and a connection to those who would endure hardship themselves. While controversy and rebellion brought him attention in his youth, it was the honesty of his grief and life experiences that strengthened the bond with his audience in later years. Listeners recognized that beneath the bravado of a rugged country star was a man shaped by loss, struggle, and an unwavering commitment to family, music, and authenticity. Alongside personal tragedy, Hank Jr. has faced scrutiny regarding his health, a topic that has grown more relevant as he has aged. The near-fatal fall in 1975 left lingering physical challenges that never fully disappeared, and decades of touring, performing, and hard living have inevitably taken their toll. Fans and media alike speculate about the toll that years of alcohol, music, and accidents may have exacted on him, and whispers about declining health have periodically surfaced. Every canceled show, Every slow tour schedule and every carefully controlled public appearance is dissected and analyzed for clues about his physical condition. Yet, true to his character, Hank Jr. has largely chosen to keep such matters private, revealing little beyond what he is comfortable sharing. The image that fans see, the sunglasses, the beard, the cowboy hat, serves as both armor and identity, concealing vulnerability while simultaneously signaling that the man behind the image remains unbroken. Despite these private struggles, he continues to step onto stages when it matters, delivering performances that echo his decades of experience, pain, and defiance. His life has become a delicate balance between public fascination, private grief, and enduring need to express himself through music. Even as his age, the public remains fascinated by Hank Williams Jr., not only for his musical legacy, but also for the personal narrative that has unfolded alongside it. The recent headlines about his family, health, and the slow march of time serve as reminders that he is a human being first, a music legend second. Fans witness a man who has endured more than most, who carries the weight of tragedy alongside the triumphs, and who still finds ways to celebrate life, love, and the legacy of a family name that has Hank Williams Jr.'s story cannot be told without emphasizing the indelible mark he has left on country music as both a survivor and an innovator. While he inherited the name of a legendary father, Hank Jr. refused to simply live in that shadow. The early pressures of imitation and expectation were intense, but over time, he transformed them into fuel for creativity. His unique sound, a fusion of southern rock, blues, and outlaw country, emerged from years of struggle and self-discovery. Songs like Family Tradition and A Country Boy Can Survive became more than hits. They became anthems for authenticity, resilience, and defiance. The lyrical content often mirrored Hank Jr.'s life experiences, from personal loss to battles with addiction, family pressure, and public controversy. Fans recognized in these songs a voice that spoke to their own lives, an honest reflection of both triumphs and challenges. Unlike many artists who rely solely on polished production, Hank Jr. imbued each performance with the raw edge of lived experience. The rasp in his voice, the grit in his lyrics, and the energy of his performances were all reflections of a man who had truly endured life's extremes. The mid to late 1970s and 1980s marked Hank Jr.'s definitive rise as a solo artist, no longer tethered to his father's legacy, but standing firmly on his own. During this period, he became a symbol of the outlaw movement in country music, alongside figures like Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, and Willie Nelson. Rejecting Nashville's traditional polish, he embraced a grittier, more rebellious aesthetic both in music and in persona. Audiences were drawn to the authenticity of his sound, the honesty of his lyrics, and the fearless way he presented himself. His albums and live performances reflected a man unafraid to push boundaries and challenge conventions. Yet, this defiance was not without consequence. Hank Jr.'s outspoken political commentary, controversial lyrics, and public lifestyle often drew criticism and sparked debate. Some viewed him as reckless or divisive, while others celebrated his refusal to conform. Through it all, his fan base remained fiercely loyal, drawn not only to his music but also to the integrity and courage it represented. His legacy as a cultural figure is inseparable from his life story, blending triumph, survival, and rebellion into a singular persona that continues to resonate decades later. Alongside professional success, Hank Jr. navigated deeply personal trials that would test his resilience time and again. The tragic death of his daughter, Katie, in 2020 was a poignant reminder that fame and fortune cannot shield one from heartbreak. The loss shook the Williams family profoundly, with his son Sam also publicly grappling with grief and challenges surrounding family dynamics. These personal tragedies unfolded under the scrutiny of fans and media, placing an additional layer of pressure on an already public life. Yet, even in the face of such immense sorrow, Hank Jr. continued to create music, perform selectively, and maintain his identity as a resilient survivor. The raw honesty of his art, combined with his lived experience, allows listeners to connect not only with the music, but also with the human behind it. This duality, public defiance and private vulnerability, is a hallmark of Hank Jr.'s legacy, illustrating that strength is not the absence of struggle, but the courage to endure it while staying true to oneself. Hank Williams Jr.'s health has become another subject of interest as he has aged. Surviving the devastating fall in 1975 left physical scars that never fully healed, and decades of rigorous touring, performing, and living on the edge have inevitably taken their toll. Fans closely follow his public appearances, noting any signs of fatigue, stiffness, or hesitation, which only highlights the enduring fascination with a man who has faced life head-on for nearly 8 decades. Despite this, he remains active, choosing his performances carefully and treating them not as obligations, but as celebrations of survival and connection with his audience. This approach demonstrates an understanding of his own limitations while emphasizing what matters most: authenticity, presence, and a continued dedication to music. It is in these performances, where the rasp of his voice carries the weight of experience, that audiences are reminded that Hank Williams Jr. has lived fully, endured intensely, and remained true to the values that define his life and career. Even in quieter moments away from the stage, Hank Jr.'s life reflects the principles embodied in his music. On his Montana ranch, he embraces a simpler, self-sufficient lifestyle, hunting, fishing, and finding peace in the solitude of the wilderness. This retreat is not just physical but emotional, a space where he can reflect, recover, and live free from the pressures of fame and public expectation. Friends describe him as a man uninterested in trends or the need to impress outsiders, content instead with family, land, and the satisfaction of a life lived on his own terms. In many ways, this chapter mirrors the ethos of his songs, a commitment to survival, independence, and authenticity. The lessons of his life, the resilience learned from near-death experiences, the growth forged from grief, and the wisdom earned through decades in the public eye, inform not just his music, but his very existence. Fans, whether longtime listeners or new admirers, recognize in Hank Jr. the embodiment of survival, defiance, and the enduring power of individuality in a world that often demands conformity. As Hank Williams Jr. entered the later chapters of his life and career, the world began to see a different side of the man who had once been defined by rebellion, rowdy anthems, and public controversy. While his younger years were filled with tours, energetic performances, and headline-making statements, his more recent decades have been characterized by reflection, measured engagement with his music, and a continued commitment to living life on his own terms. At 76 years old, Hank Jr. is no stranger to the passage of time, and his public appearances reflect both the wisdom and weariness accumulated over decades of survival. Even as health concerns and aging become more apparent, his resilience and presence remain unwavering. Fans who followed him through the years appreciate the nuanced evolution of his persona, a man who has survived immense personal tragedy, defied industry expectations, and yet still carries the spark of the outlaw spirit that made him an icon. In these later years, he has embraced a slower pace, choosing to tour selectively and perform only when the setting feels meaningful. Each appearance now carries a sense of celebration, a reminder to fans that Hank Williams Jr. continues to live and thrive, despite the trials of time, loss, and physical challenges. Hank Jr.'s cultural impact extends far beyond the confines of music charts and awards. While his career was undoubtedly shaped by the shadow of his legendary father, it is his own voice, style, and personality that have cemented his place in American culture. Songs like Family Tradition, A Country Boy Can Survive, and Whiskey Ben and Hellbound are not only musical achievements, but also social and cultural statements. They embody the values of independence, resilience, and defiance that resonate with audiences across generations. His work reflects the struggles and triumphs of rural America, connecting deeply with listeners who see their own lives mirrored in his lyrics. Moreover, Hank Jr.'s unapologetic persona challenged the norms of the country music industry, encouraging artists to embrace authenticity over polished perfection. By refusing to conform to Nashville standards and openly addressing personal struggles, political beliefs, and controversial topics, he influenced not just the music itself, but the way performers could navigate fame and artistic freedom. In this sense, Hank Williams Jr. is more than a singer. He is a symbol of individualism, courage, and the power of staying true to oneself, even when public opinion is divided. Family has always been a central theme in Hank Jr.'s life and music, and it continues to shape his legacy. The tragic death of his daughter, Katie, in 2020, was a stark reminder of the vulnerability that accompanies even the strongest figures. Public attention on the Williams family has only intensified in the wake of her passing, as fans and media attempt to reconcile the image of a defiant, larger-than-life star with the reality of private grief. His son, Sam Williams has also been a figure of public interest, both for his emerging music career and for candid discussions about family challenges, including moments of struggle following his sister's death. These experiences underscore the fact that the Williams legacy is not defined solely by music, but by the human experiences, tragedy, resilience, and survival that shape every member of the family. Hank Jr.'s ability to navigate this complex landscape while maintaining his identity is a testament to his enduring strength, both as a father and as an individual. Even in quieter moments, away from the media and public scrutiny, Hank Williams Jr. remains a figure of fascination. On his Montana ranch, he lives a life aligned with the principles expressed in his songs: self-reliance, connection to nature, and appreciation for simplicity. Hunting, fishing, and solitude provide not only a respite from public life, but also a space for reflection and renewal. Friends and colleagues describe him as grounded, focused on family and personal fulfillment rather than external validation. This chapter of his life reflects the ethos of his music and persona, a dedication to authenticity, a refusal to compromise, and profound understanding of the fragility and value of life. It is in this setting, away from the spotlights, that Hank Jr. truly embodies the meaning of the lyrics that defined him, living the life of a country boy who survives, who thrives, and who remains steadfast in his principles. Hank Williams Jr.'s enduring legacy is multi-layered. He is a musician, a survivor, a father, an icon who has navigated a life full of extreme highs and devastating lows. His influence is seen in the generations of country artists who followed, many of whom cite his defiance, authenticity, and creative courage as a guiding example. Moreover, his life story, one of personal struggle, public triumph, and relentless survival, offers lessons that transcend music. It is a narrative of resilience in the face of tragedy, courage against conformity, and the enduring power of individuality. Hank Williams Jr. proves that legacy is not merely inherited. It is built through life, experience, and a refusal to be anything less than oneself. His name, once defined by the shadow of his father, now stands independently as a symbol of defiance, authenticity, and enduring human spirit. Through his music, his trials, and his triumphs, Hank Jr. has ensured that the Williams legacy does not simply endure. It evolves, inspires, and resonates with audiences long into the future. Hank Williams Jr.'s life story offers more than just a record of musical achievements and public controversies. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. From the moment he was born into the shadow of a legendary father, Hank Jr. faced a world filled with expectations, comparisons, and pressure. Unlike many, he did not allow the weight of legacy to define him. Instead, he transformed it into a source of motivation, building a career and persona that were uniquely his own. His early years, marked by the need to imitate his father, taught him both the power and the burden of a name, while his teenage rebellion against prescribed paths revealed a desire to carve his own identity. This journey of self-discovery, combined with the lessons of survival and resilience, provides a roadmap for anyone who has ever felt overshadowed, constrained, or underestimated. Hank Jr.'s story reminds us that while heritage and circumstance can shape our beginnings, they do not have to dictate the path or limit the potential of our lives. The near-fatal accident on Ajax Peak in 1975 stands as a defining turning point in Hank Jr.'s life. Few artists have faced such a literal and figurative fall, and even fewer have risen with the strength and determination he displayed. The physical scars and emotional trauma could have ended his career, yet Hank Jr. used the experience to redefine himself as both an artist and a person. The accident forced him to confront mortality, personal limitations, and the need for independence, ultimately resulting in a musical and personal transformation. His subsequent work, infused with raw energy and authenticity, reflected a man who had faced death and emerged stronger. This episode teaches a powerful lesson about resilience. Survival is not merely about enduring hardship, but about using it to create, to grow, and to assert one's identity in the face of adversity. Hank Jr. demonstrates that even life-altering tragedies can become catalysts for reinvention and empowerment when met with courage and persistence. Beyond personal trials, Hank Williams Jr.'s life illustrates the importance of authenticity in a world often obsessed with conformity. Throughout his career, he resisted the pressures of Nashville's music industry, refusing to adopt a polished, commercial image that did not reflect his true self. Instead, he embraced the outlaw persona, the rawness of Southern rock, and the honesty of his own lived experiences. His songs, performances, and public statements were never crafted solely to please critics or maintain status. They were honest reflections of who he was. This unapologetic authenticity attracted both criticism and loyalty, but ultimately secured his place as an influential figure in American music. The lesson here extends beyond artistry. Living authentically, even in the face of scrutiny or opposition, fosters respect, connection, and a lasting legacy. Hank Jr.'s career proves that the courage to be oneself, fully and without compromise, is often the most powerful form of defiance and the most enduring source of influence. Family and personal relationships have played an equally significant role in shaping Hank Jr.'s story. The loss of his daughter Katie in 2020, alongside his son Sam's struggles, highlighted that even figures who appear larger than life are not immune to pain. These deeply human experiences remind us that resilience does not mean invulnerability. Hank Jr.'s continued presence, both as a father and as an artist, demonstrates the importance of confronting grief, supporting loved ones, and finding meaning even in tragedy. Moreover, his dedication to family and private life, particularly in his later years, reinforces the idea that success is not measured only by fame or wealth, but also by the depth of relationships, the courage to endure loss, and the capacity for reflection and growth. Fans and observers see in Hank Jr. not only the outlaw persona that defined his music, but also the vulnerable, human dimension that gives a story emotional depth and enduring relevance. Today, Hank Williams Jr. stands as a figure who has transcended the boundaries of music and public expectation. He embodies survival, authenticity, resilience, and the courage to define one's path in the face of immense pressure. His story teaches lessons about enduring hardship, embracing individuality, and finding strength in the midst of personal and professional challenges. From a young boy performing in his father's shadow to a man who faced near-death experiences, personal loss, and public scrutiny, Hank Jr. has emerged as both a cultural icon and a human example of perseverance. His legacy is not defined solely by chart-topping hits or awards, but by the authenticity, determination, and indomitable spirit that have guided him through every stage of life. As fans reflect on his music, performances, and personal journey, it becomes clear that Hank Williams Jr. is more than a musician or a son of legend. He is a symbol of resilience, a storyteller of survival, and a man who transformed tragedy into triumph, leaving a lasting imprint on music, culture, and the human heart. Hank Williams Jr. S. life and career are a testament to the enduring power of resilience, individuality, and authenticity. From the very beginning, his journey was anything but ordinary. Born into a world already shaped by the towering presence of his father, Hank Williams Sr., he faced immense pressure to